皆さんこんにちは。慶應義塾大学大学院メディアデザイン研究科のChiehと申します。今日の発表は英語でします。So today I'm presenting a design of a multi-stage co-creation framework for tourism development in resource-limited destinations in Japan. And to start, I would like to show you two pictures of this researcher's field site, which is in Izumozaki town in Niigata. The images show an abandoned school and an elderly woman grilling hamayaki in a local shop. They capture a glimpse of struggles faced by many rural areas in Japan that are classified as Chieh. So population decline in these kind of areas has reached a critical level that makes it hard for them to maintain basic living standards and sustain their local production systems. They face compounding challenges such as labor shortage, industrial stagnation, and limited financial capacity. And although tourism itself is often used as a tool to promote, to help them conduct regional revitalization, it is hard for such destinations to utilize internal mechanisms to fill the gap of transforming their local assets into sustainable tourism products or achieving global visibility. However, when their local actors express their intention to sustain communities through tourism development, the important design questions comes down to how we can expand their ecosystem of contributors and enabling them to mobilize external support to overcome these structural limitations. To address this question, we first reframe tourism itself as a strategic opportunity for the destinations to engage people who are visiting or are planning to visit a destination. And this requires us to view tourism from the perspective of service dominant logic. And it is not a one-way service delivery, but rather a fundamentally co-creative process. So if we look from SD logic, value itself is not a prepackaged commodity, rather a thing that emerges through the interactions between suppliers and consumers, and even among consumers themselves. And in tourism sector, these interactions are further intensified. Accordingly, we can redefine tourists as active value co-creators that shape experiences through their interactions within the tourism ecosystem. And central to their co-creation is the integration of their operating resources, such as their competencies, their knowledge, and skills. In the context of resource-limited destinations, tourists who can act as contributing actors need to meet the following conditions. First, they should possess the operating resources that can be aligned with the developmental needs of the destination. They should have sufficient time for them to travel, and they should want to pursue the experiential benefits that these destinations can offer. And the student demographic perfectly aligns with these conditions, so they are selected as a key target group in this research. For example, students nowadays, they knew how to use digital tools, and in particular, international students possess multilingual abilities, and they have transnational neural networks, which are all pretty beneficial. And second, compared to other tourist segments, students offer a greater time flexibility and can often travel for a longer period. And last but not least, in recent years, their engagement with rural destinations in Japan has been increasing. And while several programs in Japan aim to leverage students' capacities, key gaps still remain. So there's a need for mechanisms that can better integrate diverse student operating resources with specific local tourism needs, are more flexible in terms of the time span and itinerary content, and also explore group-based co-creative context to foster collective value creation. Noting that identifying specific local needs and framing corresponding solutions is essential, this research further adopts this destination fashion conditioning framework as a guideline for those destinations. So this framework views tourism development not just as infrastructure building, but also the construction of desirability within the society. And this construction itself could be understood across 3 levels of factors. First is primary communication, which refers to the core local assets of a destination. Secondary communication is the multimedia promotion of these assets, and tertiary communication refers to the information dissemination beyond direct control. These factors will be built up and communicated through the action loop on the right side of the slide, which moves from planning and developing to promoting and soliciting. So here's a quick recap. This researcher's position centers on developing a framework in which students can function as external actors whose operating resources are coordinated and integrated into ongoing tourism development actions. And it aims to address 3 key gaps. First is the role extension gap. So within current Japanese tourism research, students are still mostly being framed as passive consumers, but this research would like to expand their roles by conceptualizing them as active contributors. And second, this research concerns the design of the collaborative framework itself. Reframing students as contributors would be insufficient without a structure that allows such participation. So this research proposes a framework that is more flexible, that allows a variation of itinerary duration and content, and facilitates the customizable alignment between students' operating resources and the local tourism needs, and also situates these interactions within a group-based context. And finally, this research responds to the gap in current tourism development framework by offering empirical evidence on how external actors can actually be embedded within the current action loops. So next, I'll briefly talk about this research setting. This researcher's field site is in Izumozaki, a coastal town in Niigata Prefecture, which has like around 4,000 people. And it was the birthplace of Japan's petroleum industry, but now it's more renowned for its natural scenery and fishing industry, paper balloon industry, and so on. The actors that will be involved in the design framework are categorized into 3 groups. So first, local tourism stakeholders. They are the residents and the businesses in the destination in Izumozaki. And they are divided into further 2 groups, service-oriented hosts and collaborative co-creators. They both are the research partners and they provide on-site tourism services for people who come and visit. But collaborative co-creators, they further contribute to implementing the solutions to their own tourism challenges. And student travelers, on the right side, there are these external participants who visit a destination and apply their operating resources to address the challenges together. And in between these 2 groups of actors, there's this coordinator who facilitates the action loop process. So from planning along to soliciting, the coordinator is the intermediary between. And in this research, the researcher, assumed the role of coordinator for now, and also participate as a student traveler to observe the effect more closely. So Izumozaki's contextual tourism challenges will be defined in the first 2 phases of the action loop, and then from the developing phase, we will adopt this co-creation framework to address the challenges. So the planning phase began with the fieldwork and interviews in Izumozaki. It was revealed that Izumozaki could actually offer a pretty diverse range of experiences. For example, sunset viewing, fishing and seafood tasting, paper balloon related experiences. However, their tourism stakeholders were pretty uncertain about how to communicate these assets to foreign visitors because they do not know how to communicate in English and also produce related content. So realizing that foreign visitors is a target group, we further conducted interviews with some international travelers to further understand their travel purposes. And it turns out that foreign residents living in Japan will be a more viable target group because they have the potential to consider to travel to lesser known destinations compared to visitors from overseas. And although Izumozaki, through the content provided in the interview, was perceived as appealing by a lot of interviewees, there's still a promotion gap remain, particularly the lack of foreign language and up-to-date promotional materials that can reach this group of audience living in Japan. And so, building on those findings, we can actually categorize Izumozaki as a destination where their tourism resources are present, but they are not framed as fashionable or desirable by their target traveler group. So this research adopts secondary and tertiary communication strategies that are more towards the promotional side to reposition these resources rather than developing new tourism products. And so, variety of attractions and visible culture of Izumozaki were selected as elements for promotion, and for the media format, a physical zine and an online website featured dedicated videos were selected. So in the context of Izumozaki, student travelers, the people who visit and apply the offered resources, they assume the role of documenters, content creators, and cultural mediators. They work together with collaborative co-creators in Izumozaki to produce multimedia promotional materials. And these activities were conducted within a pre, during, and post-trip, this span, and within a single journey. Next, I will use a recent conducted 2-day trip to illustrate this process. And while this framework is grounded in the context of Izumozaki, it is aimed to be transferable to other regions too. So we start from the pre-trip phase. This phase begins with establishing the collaborative structure and also align the goals of all actors. So the coordinator contacted the local businesses and confirmed their willingness to participate and to incorporate them into the basic itinerary. Then, based on the required expertise for this journey and the intended outputs, which is the zine and the video website, the coordinator recruited 3 international students with complementary skills. For example, driving, photography, video production, the multilingual abilities, and so on. In this case, the recruitment began with the coordinator's immediate network, the people that she knows. And note that the soliciting phase was also integrated. So one participant was also a social media influencer that will be encouraged to promote trip-related content on her social media platform after the trip. And the basic itinerary was then shared, discussed, and refined between the traveler participants. The tasks were also aligned based on everyone's skills. Even though everyone has their own primary responsibility, it was the mutual assistance during the trip was also encouraged. And so during the 2-day trip, traveler participants visited and interacted with the local tourism stakeholders and carried out the co-creation activities as shown in the photos. For example, information collection and taking pictures and videos, and also doing interviews. And after the trip, everyone submitted their respective contributions, and it moves on to the finalization of the co-created outputs. The coordinator, also participating as a traveler participant, utilizes her offered resources to design the zine and the website. And the content will be presented to all stakeholders involved to make sure that it is accurately presented and the information are all correct. And this is how the zine will look like. This is a part of the video website. And we actually just recently printed the zine out. So if your guys are interested, we can also talk about this after the presentation. Next, this research will move on to the promotion stage around March. This will include the distribution of the zine in touchpoints in Izumozaki and also touchpoints in Tokyo, accompanied by the social media promotion. And also, as mentioned earlier, the influencer participant will also promote and share the content on her social media platform to amplify the reach. So moving on, it's important to examine how these multi-actor engagement could be carried out. So the research employed observation and post-trip interviews to identify factors that enable and motivate students to transition to active contributors during the single journey. And simultaneously, we also examined how collaborative co-creators in Izumozaki facilitate the value co-creating process. And the findings can be categorized into 4 themes. First, this co-creation process is proved to be grounded in resource integration and is highly relational in the nature. To elaborate, one key driver of the travelers' participation is their perceived utility of self. In other words, through the explanation of the coordinator and also the task alignment, everyone believed that their specific skills can contribute to the needs of the destination. And then during the trip, the group-based travel structure actually helped reduce the perceived cost of their resource integration by allowing mutual assistance and also this shared expectation of like we will create more value as we interact with one another. For example, one participant A says that he's responsible for like cooking and also driving, even though they like are tasks or like you have to put in effort to do that. But rather than thinking about like, oh, it takes so much effort, he cares more about that. How can I like create unique memories with these people traveling with me through those activities? And so time and effort were not viewed as sacrifice, but they were transformed into value and use and satisfaction during the experience. Second, experiential benefits was also an important factor in motivating those student travelers to participate. So first, the trip itself provides access to travel opportunities, which are usually inaccessible for independent travelers in Japan. And second, the unexpected discovery generated through their interactions with the local tourism stakeholders also become an added perceived value of their experience. And like participant A actually have been to Izumozaki before, but through this recent trip, he discovered more stories and interacted with new people of the area, and it looks like it feels like a new discovery for him. And beyond the value recognized by the students, collaborative co-creators, which are the businesses participating in this process, they also perceive value. So first, they derived emotional satisfaction from students' genuine interest in the destination itself. And second, they also perceive value through the fact that they think that students' ability can fill in the gap by providing fresh and external perspectives. They express curiosity and excitement through how their communities would be reframed through the foreign lens throughout this co-creation process. So for example, there's a woodworking studio owner mentioned that how would like those students view Izumozaki, and how would they present it, and how would other people that read the zine and the video website present it. Like he's very interested in the result of this co-creation. And last but not least, during the trip, we also generated on-site tertiary communication. I mentioned that there's an influencer who was recruited, and she was supposed to like promote the trip after the trip. But during the trip, she kind of edited a video herself and then posted on her social media, like without us asking. And it was generating a pretty good reaction within a wider audience. And there were like people asking questions about this destination, showing that they have interest in this destination. So this shows that students kind of transform from visitors to active advocates during the trip and bring new value to the destination itself. So moving on, it is essential to complete the promoting and soliciting phase and also examine the value exchange between the multimedia promotional materials we create, like how readers and viewers perceive it, and how they feel like Izumozaki, what kind of place it looks like. As for the framework itself, it is important to expand it into other regions that are facing different tourism challenges, and also test it with a varied group of students. And also the coordination process, how does it adjust to adapt these changes? That is also pretty important. And moreover, for now, the coordinator is researcher herself. But like in the future, who should assume this role and would be sustainable for the destination? This is also a thing that is worth exploring. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for the interactive presentation. 何かご質問とかございますでしょうか。お願いします。
Sorry, international students, we have a 28-hour work time. This how should the hosting for international students also solve this problem?
Okay. For now, this research is still situated in tourism context. So for the trip itself, it's not like a paid job. It's more like a trip, like we paid money for it, but we come here and then we produce something throughout this journey. So it's not a work for the students. It's like we all paid money for this trip. But a thing that I'm still considering about is like for the output we create, can we actually make it into like a product for the destination that could be profitable? If it generates profit, can it like go back to the destination or the student travelers who help produce it and becomes like a benefit like circulation? That's a thing that I'm still thinking about, but for now it is not like a paid work for the students. It's just like a trip. Yes.
This is work time, not work time.
Not work time, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
他に何かありますでしょうか。Could you explain why you focus to rural area? You most important
So this is actually a pretty personal motivation because I had the opportunity to visit this town. Izumozaki, which is a part like classified as Kaso Chieh. And when I visit there, I recognize that from my view as a tourist, it does have scattered resources, and the people there that are remaining like conducting businesses in that place, they have like this yaruki, like they really want to do something for this community, but they lack the kind of perspective of how this can be conducted in a way that is more sustainable, or they simply lack the resources that can help support them to realize the imagination in their mind. So I think that's a pretty, like, that to me is important because these people want to do something for their communities, and this can also help distribute like for example, the over-tourism problem that is happening in Japan. And so to me, I think this is really a topic that is worth exploring. Yeah.
何か他にご質問とかございますでしょうか。まだ時間ありますので、はい、お願いします。
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. What I'd like to know more is there any difference between foreign students, which you depicted, versus Japanese students as a sort of co-creator,
Yeah.
and also other kinds of tourists, like sort of relation-based, population or kankeijinko.
Yeah.
So those people could play some roles. So what would be your view about sort of uniqueness, differences some among these frameworks?
I would say for Japanese students, my next fieldwork will be integrating them into like the trip. But for now, I only work with international students, so I kind of lack the data to like explain the differences. That's yeah. But for the Kankejinko, like the relational population, what I'm thinking that like the connection with my framework would be first the coordinator role. Like who should assume this role in the future for the destination? And maybe the people that kind of like semi-insiders, like they are not actually residents living in that area. They are also not totally outsiders, like they do have connections with this place. They can have this perspective of inside and outside. Then they may be a good, like good potential to assume this coordinator role with. And also another thing that I'm thinking about is, could this framework actually be a beginning point for these people who come as a tourist visitor? If they develop interest for this area, would they transform from a koryujinko, from tourists, into the relational population, which is kankejinko? I think that's also, it's related to the time frame of the research, but I think that's a good thing to explore.
Yeah, thank you very much. I thought it'd be interesting for you to apply this, your framework to those broader
Yeah. Thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
他に何か付け加えることとか、聞きたいこととかありますか？You are next step.
Yeah. My next step would be implementing this framework to another town. Like it's not this town. I would want to try it with like different area that also with a different group of students. So for this recruitment, I mentioned in the presentation that it starts with my immediate network. So it's mostly people that I have contact. But for the next fieldwork, I'm actually recruiting students like from, I created a form and then had an open call on social media. So the students who come, they don't know each other. And I am pretty like interested in how that would, what value would be generated through this interaction between students who don't know each other. Yeah.
じゃあ、時間になりましたね。
ありがとうございます。